Controlling anger is the ultimate advantage in any situation. Miyamoto Musashi's four-step control method helped him maintain perfect clarity in 60 duels to the death. This same approach works for today's challenges, giving you control in arguments, conflicts, and frustrating situations. We'll explore all four parts of his practical system, starting with the foundation that revolutionizes how you understand anger itself. Most anger management advice is incomplete. It focuses on what to do after you're already angry, but by then, you're fighting an uphill battle. Conventional approaches often miss the crucial first step that makes everything else work. Musashi discovered something decisive during his earliest duels. Anger follows a predictable pattern that begins before you feel it. While his opponents would suddenly explode in rage, Musashi trained himself to notice the first signals of anger. In his famous duel with Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi deliberately arrived hours late to the island where they would fight. Kojiro, furious at being made to wait in the hot sun, lost his composure completely. Meanwhile, Musashi remained clear-headed, detecting his own irritation at Kojiro's insults, but stopping it before it developed further. The core insight. Anger always announces itself before taking control. Your heartbeat quickens, your muscles tense, your breathing changes, all before you consciously feel angry. Here's what recognition looks like in practice. When someone cuts you off in traffic, most people immediately react. Musashi would instead notice the sudden grip on the steering wheel, the sharp intake of breath. By spotting these reactions instantly, you gain control before anger takes over. Modern neuroscience confirms what Musashi discovered through combat. Brain scans show that physical signs of anger appear up to 7 seconds before you consciously feel the emotion. These crucial seconds determine whether you maintain control or lose it. The key difference between Musashi and most people isn't that he never felt the initial triggers of anger, it's that he noticed them immediately, while most people only become aware once the emotion has already taken control. Recognition works by exploiting a fundamental aspect of how your brain processes emotion. Your limbic system, the emotional center, activates first, sending physiological signals throughout your body. Only later does your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part, become aware of the emotion. By training yourself to notice these physical signals immediately, you insert awareness into this gap. Recognition gives you the critical first seconds of awareness, but what do you do in those seconds? This is where Musashi's second principle becomes essential. Once you've spotted anger arising, you need a specific technique to prevent it from consuming your mind. Which leads us to part 2, distancing. Most people become their anger. They say, "I am angry," rather than, "I feel anger." This subtle difference is crucial. When you become the emotion, you lose all perspective and control. Musashi understood this trap and developed emotional distancing. In his writings, Musashi described watching emotions like clouds passing in the sky. He observed his feelings without becoming them, creating a mental space between himself and his reactions. This distance gave him clarity when opponents lost focus. One particularly telling duel demonstrates this principle clearly. A younger swordsman challenged Musashi, using provocative taunts about Musashi's simple appearance and unconventional fighting style. The young man deliberately tried to anger Musashi, hoping he would attack rashly. Instead, Musashi observed his irritation without judgment, keeping his movements measured and precise. The younger swordsman, frustrated by Musashi's calm, eventually attacked carelessly, creating the opening Musashi needed to end the duel with a single stroke. In another incident, a rival school sent their champion to challenge Musashi. This opponent arrived with a large entourage, dressed impressively in formal attire while Musashi appeared in simple clothes. The champion tried psychological warfare, making cutting remarks about Musashi's humble background. While anyone else might have become defensive or angry, Musashi simply noted these feelings arising without becoming them. His emotional distance enabled him to see the strategic purpose behind the insults and respond with calculated precision rather than emotional reaction. This distancing technique is remarkably effective because of how our brains process emotions. When you say, "I am angry," you activate the amygdala, your brain's emotional center, which reduces blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, literally making you less intelligent in that moment. But when you observe, "I notice anger arising," you engage your prefrontal cortex, maintaining your rational thinking capacity when you need it most. Here's how to apply this immediately. When you detect the first signals of anger, mentally step back and label what's happening. There's tension in my shoulders. My breathing is changing. anger is forming. This simple act of labeling creates the critical distance that prevents you from becoming the emotion. A high-level negotiator uses this approach during tense international talks, when counterparts make unreasonable demands designed to provoke. He mentally notes frustration is arising instead of becoming frustrated. This allows him to maintain strategic clarity while others lose composure. When you create space between yourself and anger, you gain options. You're no longer driven by the emotion. You can use its energy strategically or let it pass without action. This is why Musashi remained unpredictable in combat. While his opponents reacted in predictable emotional patterns, he responded with strategic clarity, creating confusion that gave him the decisive advantage. The same provocations that make others lose control become valuable data about your opponent's strategy and state of mind. But emotional distancing alone doesn't complete the control system. Musashi paired it with a specific physical technique that creates immediate calm even in the most intense situations. Part 3. Breathing Method. Throughout his writings, particularly in The Book of Five Rings, Musashi emphasized proper breathing as essential for maintaining composure. While he didn't describe his exact method in detail, historical records show his training was heavily influenced by Zen Buddhism, which he studied extensively during his later years. The breathing technique Musashi likely developed combines elements from Zen meditation practices and martial preparation. In Zen monasteries of feudal Japan, monks practiced a breathing pattern called tanden breathing, focusing breath energy in the lower abdomen to create unshakable stability. Samurai adapted these techniques for combat situations where steady breath meant steady hands. After Musashi's famous duel with the Yoshioka brothers, where he fought against multiple opponents, witnesses noted his remarkably controlled breathing even during intense combat. While others gasped and panted, Musashi maintained a specific rhythmic breathing pattern that kept him centered throughout the confrontation. Here's how the technique works. When you detect the first signals of anger and create distance from the emotion, immediately shift to a specific breathing pattern. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, filling your lungs from the bottom up. Feel your abdomen expand first, then your chest. Hold this breath briefly for 1 second, then exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds, completely emptying your lungs. Make your exhale longer than your inhale. This is the key to activating your body's calming response. This 4-1-6 pattern is crucial. The extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's built-in calming mechanism. This immediately counteracts the fight or flight response triggered by anger. When angry, your breathing naturally becomes rapid and shallow, sending danger signals to your brain. By deliberately extending your exhale longer than your inhale, you override these signals, telling your brain, there is no danger here. Elite military units and special forces operators use variations of this technique during high-stress operations. When split-second decisions mean life or death, they rely on tactical breathing to maintain optimal cognitive function. Studies of these operators show that those who master breathing techniques make better decisions under pressure than those who don't. Olympic athletes apply this same method before crucial moments. Watch carefully during competitions. You'll often see top performers taking a specific controlled breath before executing their skill. To incorporate this into your life, practice the 4-1-6 pattern daily so it becomes automatic when needed. Start with just 5 breaths each morning. When you encounter a triggering situation, first recognize the anger signals, create mental distance, then immediately apply this breathing technique. While recognition helps you spot anger and distancing prevents you from becoming it, the breathing technique gives you physiological control that makes both more effective. But Musashi's complete system has one final component, a principle that determines whether your response to provocation will be effective or not. Part 4. Strategic Response. Most people respond to provocation in one of two ways. They either lash out impulsively or they suppress their reaction completely. Both approaches are flawed. Impulsive reaction surrenders control while complete suppression wastes valuable emotional energy. Musashi discovered a third option that his opponents never anticipated: strategic response. In the Book of Five Rings, he wrote, "The way is in training." This deceptively simple statement reveals his insight about emotional control. By transforming emotional energy into disciplined action, he gained a decisive edge over opponents who either exploded with rage or froze with hesitation. This principle was evident in Musashi's approach to unexpected challenges. When ambushed by the Hosokawa clan's warriors, Musashi didn't waste energy on anger at the dishonorable surprise attack. Instead, he immediately assessed the tactical situation and chose a position that neutralized their numerical advantage. His ability to channel emotional intensity into strategic clarity saved his life when reactive anger would have meant certain death. The key insight is that anger contains tremendous energy. The mistake most people make is either unleashing this energy chaotically or suppressing it completely. Musashi's approach was to redirect it, using the heightened awareness and physiological activation to fuel decisive action that serves your actual objective. In modern combat sports, this principle is unmistakable. UFC champion Georges St-Pierre was known for his strategic calm during fights. When opponents tried to provoke him with trash talk or aggressive rushes, he would redirect that energy into perfectly timed takedowns. While others fought from emotion, St-Pierre fought from strategy, a distinction that helped him dominate his division for years. Jiu-jitsu competitors demonstrate this principle in every match. When caught in a submission attempt, the untrained response is panic, either thrashing wildly or freezing completely. Elite practitioners instead use that moment of pressure to execute precise technical responses. They transform the heightened energy of the threatening situation into focused movement. This approach works just as effectively in professional settings. When faced with a colleague who undermines you in a meeting, your immediate impulse might be either to attack back or withdraw completely. Strategic response offers a third option: acknowledging the feeling, taking a controlled breath, then redirecting that energy toward your actual objective, perhaps by calmly refocusing the discussion on data that supports your position. Here's how to apply strategic response in your life. When you've recognized anger signals, created distance, and regulated your breathing, ask one simple question: what outcome do I actually want from this situation? This question instantly shifts your focus from the emotion to your objective. A sales professional uses this when dealing with difficult clients. Rather than becoming defensive when criticized or taking it personally when a client is hostile, he redirects that energy into understanding the underlying concerns driving the client's behavior, turning potential confrontation into opportunity. Recognition gives you awareness of anger before it takes control. Distancing prevents you from becoming the emotion. Breathing regulates your physiological state. And strategic response channels the energy toward purposeful outcomes. The complete system works because it aligns with how your brain and body naturally process emotion. It doesn't fight your responses, it transforms them. When practiced together, these four components create a seamless flow from initial trigger to effective action in seconds. This same system that preserved Musashi's life in 60 consecutive duels can transform how you handle modern challenges, giving you an edge that others don't have.